There is a pressure that arrives like weather. It does not ask permission. It raises the hair along your arms and sets your hands to work. Sometimes it shows up as desire, sometimes as fury, sometimes as a whisper at dawn. Whatever form it chooses, it wants one thing. It wants to be born. The impulse that made the first cell pulse and the impulse that skims a lover's skin are not strangers. They are the same current wearing different faces. Call it evolutionary hunger, call it eros, call it the creative force. Name it what you will and it still behaves the same. It seeks to bring into being what was not there. It seeks expansion and insists on novelty. I have felt that insistence as if planets were rearranging inside my chest. It begins with a small bright ache, like a moth tapping against glass. If I listen, I notice how everything else recedes. Plans become thin, the self becomes a background instrument, and the tension narrows until it feels as though the body is a single aperture through which a whole other mind speaks. That is the difference between ordinary wanting and what I call inspired urgency. Ordinary wanting stalls, it argues. Inspired urgency moves as if someone else is running the show. Ideas arrive fully formed, like small animals that only need a door opened. There is an impatience in this process that feels holy. Some call genius what I call being midwife to the universe. The creative impulse is sexual in its raw energy and evolutionary in its direction. It carries with it a tension of attraction and resistance. That friction produces heat. Heat produces change. This heat has driven tool-making, myth-weaving, paintings that smell of oil and rain, protests that rearrange cities, quiet rituals that fold the ordinary into something sacramental. The same current animates all of it. When the current thickens into awakening, it changes tone. Suddenly, the act of creation is not a private conquest. It is a relationship with a presence so much larger that the language of ownership falls flat. The person who felt compelled to make becomes a vehicle for something that intends not personal fame or comfort. The mind that once built its identity around achievement listens and serves. Motivation reconfigures itself. It ceases to be about me and becomes about what wants to be known. The Bodhisattva is a person who finds their deepest motivation outside of self-reward. They move with a tenderness that is strategic. Their intent is the broader life of consciousness. They stay in the world when leaving would be easier. They take on the effort of translation, of suffering, of repair. That effort is not asceticism dressed as virtue. It is the mature response of someone who has seen both the perfection that already is and the hunger for what could be more awake. What does perfection feel like when you are in that place? It is not smugness. It is a kind of surrender so complete that the world arrives to you. The present becomes dense with enoughness. There is fullness that carries relief. You could sit there forever and call it salvation. Yet even inside that fullness there is a whisper of unfolding. The future shimmers not as lack, but as possibility asking to be tended. So two tensions coexist. Everything is already complete. Something wants to be born through you. When both truths are allowed to stand side by side, the work that comes through you carries two notes. One note rests in awe. The other moves towards repair and expansion. Neither negates the other. One comes, the other charges. We're living in an era that mistakes urgency for greed. There's a thinness of most modern productivity. It confuses motion with purpose. The evolutionary impulse I'm describing does not honor speed for the sake of speed. It refuses calculation as a sole guide. It is guided by a deeper metric. Does this action invite more consciousness into being, or does it merely aggrandize an idea of self? The question asks for courage, it asks for time. It requires the willingness to sit with impulses long enough to hear their true origin. I want to offer a practice that is not a technique, but an orientation. Notice where impulses start. Sit with them without immediately translating them into tasks. Allow the ache to articulate itself without haste. If the impulse craves expression, bring a small, faithful action to it. Keep the act small so you can observe without being swallowed by consequence. test whether the energy carries generosity beyond the self. If it does, follow it. If it pulls toward clever self-preservation, watch it from a distance and let it pass. There are days when I fail. I chase vanity with a clever argument. I frame generosity as branding. I betray the impulse and then notice the bruise it leaves. Those failures matter because they teach me to distinguish hunger from ego disguised as hunger. They return me to the more difficult work of listening carefully to the quality of the urge. Do not romanticize this as holiness detached from the messy stuff of life. Being a conduit is gritty. It requires patience, stubbornness, and sometimes a willingness to carry pain that does not belong to you. It asks for discernment so that energy is not wasted on small dramas. It also asks for daring because the future that wants to be born may demand changes that risk reputation and familiar identity. Most of us intuit this in small ways. We stand in front of a blank page, we paint a face at midnight, we take a stand where silence would be the safe route. In those moments, we taste a movement larger than our reasons. It asks us to hold two truths at once. The world is already singing, the world is not yet fully awake. The creative force that animates desire and the same force that animates birth are not separate from the impulse to awaken. When we treat our creative urgencies as sacred work and our awakenings as practical care, the species can begin to shift. We become less like individuals trying to be brilliant and more like an organism tending its own next stage of life. That is the ethical spine of inspiration. It refuses selfishness at the level of intention. It honors the body and the messy heart that carries dreams. It does not demand perfection but asks for fidelity. The universe has always been inventing itself. Sometimes it discovers new shapes by accident and sometimes it does so deliberately. The rare and beautiful moment is when we recognize the movement within us and answer with a humble hand and a fierce heart. We midwife a world that can recognize itself. We do not do it perfectly, but we do it anyway.